We hear a lot about useful jazz licks that you can play over particular chords or progressions, and learning those lines is valuable, but once you've learned a lick, an important question follows. What do you actually do with it? In this lesson, we'll look at practical ways to turn memorized licks into usable musical language. If you simply memorize a lick and repeat it unchanged, it tends to sound inserted rather than integrated into your improvising. The goal is to move beyond imitation and begin assimilating the material so that it becomes part of your own musical language. In this lesson, I'll show you several practical ways to develop a lick into a musical motif, techniques you can apply immediately in your own practice. Let's start with a familiar example. Later in the video, I'll demonstrate the same techniques using a simple 2-5-1 line, but this well-known phrase gives us a clear starting point. The first and simplest option is to repeat the lick exactly. This might sound obvious, but repetition is one of the most fundamental ways motifs are established in improvised solos. Once the idea has been stated, we can begin to vary it. Rhythmic variation. One approach is to change the rhythm while keeping the same sequence of notes. For example, you can make longer notes shorter, extend shorter notes, or introduce rests. If the phrase is meant to occupy the same amount of time, for example 2 bars, that's measures, then increasing duration in one place requires shortening it somewhere else. Here's the lick with the long note moved from the end to the beginning. It still occupies the same 2 bars and it's still recognizable as the same idea, but it already sounds more personal. Here's another version where the middle note is stretched rhythmically. And here are a few additional rhythmic variations, all keeping the same pitch order. We can also vary the motif by changing the order of notes. For example, here's the line reversed. And here are some examples where both the rhythm and the note order are changed together. Another way to personalize a lick is to add notes. You might add approach notes or a pickup leading into the phrase. Or you might extend the phrase by continuing beyond its original ending. Or you might combine both approaches. Even though the phrase has grown, listeners can still hear the original idea inside it. This is one of the ways that experienced improvisers can create continuity across longer solos. If you watch compilations of different jazz players using this particular lick, you'll hear that very few of them present it in exactly the same way each time. Instead, they reshape it to fit the musical moment. Okay, example 2. Let's apply the same process to another typical jazz phrase. Here's a simple 2-5 line. The point here isn't theory, but process. So you can develop any short melodic idea using the same techniques. First, establish the idea clearly. And you can repeat it exactly or in different ways. Next, vary the rhythm. And after you've varied the rhythm, maybe experiment with reordering the notes. You can add or remove notes to expand or compress the phrase. And finally, you can combine several of the techniques so that the original idea is still present, but it's transformed. When you practice licks, try thinking of them not as finished products, because they're not. Think of them as source material. Take a single phrase and spend time repeating it, reshaping it, extending it, compressing it, reversing it, combining different variations. And over time, the line stops sounding like something borrowed and begins to function as part of your own vocabulary. Just as importantly, practice using and developing the licks you're working on in real time, in rehearsals, at jam sessions, at gigs, if you're already playing out, or simply with backing tracks. The key point to remember is straightforward. A lick becomes useful musical language only after you learn to vary it in real time. In the next lesson, we'll look at structured practice approaches you can use to build this skill systematically. We'll use backing tracks and apply these ideas directly to a jazz standard.